welcome to another episode of Let's Be Perfectly Queer with me, your host, Randy Davis. On tonight's episode, doing things a little bit differently. I don't have anyone on as a guest to interview this evening, but we are highlighting and paying tribute to HIV long-term survivors tonight. This past June 5th was the 6th National HIV Long-Term Survivors Awareness Day, and I wanted to acknowledge just what long-term survivors have meant to me in the activism and advocacy work that I do around folks living with HIV. As many of you may or may not know, I was diagnosed with HIV back in February of 2015. So I consider myself an HIV baby, but I have been extremely fortunate since my diagnosis to meet some amazing individuals who've been living with HIV or AIDS in some cases for decades now. And those individuals have really helped to shape the work that I do, have helped to mentor me in dipping a toe in this world of HIV advocacy and activism. And I wanted to be able to thank them for that. And to thank them for really being at the forefront of allowing folks like me to get an HIV diagnosis and not be worried about what the next 6 months was going to look like. Certainly, as I've said in the past, folks that are diagnosed even today with HIV, many have the same thoughts and feelings that I had when I was diagnosed 5 years ago, that my life was over and no one would ever love me again. And that clearly was not the case. And when calmer minds prevailed, I realized that I was going to be just fine as long as I got on and stay on my medications, which I do. And that keeps me undetectable and therefore means that the HIV that is in my system is untransmittable, which is a wonderful, freeing, stigma-busting message to be able to share with folks. And that's what these long-term survivors are doing. It's not a message that many are aware of. Unfortunately, far too few are aware of, and there's a lot of gatekeepers amongst the HIV elite that don't like to share this message. But yeah, HIV is a chronic illness now that with medication, folks can live a normal, healthy life. And that's what I'm doing. That's what these folks are doing as well. I reached out to 7 amazing individuals who I have the pleasure of calling my friends as well. And they've each agreed to submit a video talking about what being a long-term survivor means to them and sharing some messages.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. I was just reflecting. I've been living with HIV for 27 years. How does it feel to be an HIV long-term survivor? It feels pretty damn good. But I feel so many different mixed emotions about it. There's that little bit of sadness that's in my heart because I know, or I knew, a bunch of people living with HIV that aren't here anymore. And I guess there's that frustration of why me? Why not them? Makes me sad. My parents both passed away from HIV-related symptoms. So yeah, there's that sadness. Then there's that gratitude. I can't believe I've made it. Being a child, growing up with HIV, I was confused and heartbroken. And now look at me, a 27-year-old, just killing the game. Surviving HIV, but surviving HIV stigma and actually living a full life. I'm so glad to be living. I was diagnosed when I was 2 years old, and at that point the doctors didn't know what would happen to me if I'd survive. You remember when people would get diagnosed with HIV and they would be given 6 months to live? And now look where we are. Look where I am. I look pretty damn good, don't I? I am really, really thankful. to be a long-term survivor. I can't wait for the next 27 years. I'll make sure to catch you guys up when I'm in my 50s. But for now, peace.
Hi, I'm Charles Sanchez. I'm coming to you from my apartment in Astoria, Queens, New York City. Long-Term Survivors Day is June 5th. And, you know, it was in 1981 when the CDC first came out with the very first report about a mysterious lung infection that was happening to gay men. And I remember when the AIDS crisis hit in the 80s, I was in high school and in college, and it always scared me as something that, that I thought might get me. And when I was diagnosed with AIDS, I was so scared. I was so frightened, and I thought I was going to die, and I didn't. And luckily, we have medications that are keeping us alive and keeping us undetectable. But one of the things that I didn't expect to get from having AIDS was being a part of this amazing community of HIV activists and advocates and friends, family. One of my dearest friends I wouldn't have met had I not been diagnosed with AIDS. So I just have a lot of love for this family of people living with HIV and our allies. So God bless, and here's to another year of living with HIV.
Hi there. My name is Deborah Norris, and I've been living with HIV since 1991. As a long-term survivor, I have dealt with a lot of the things that most of us deal with. Survivor's guilt. Many of our friends died in the 90s before there were medications available. That's still to this day very difficult to think about and remember them, and they were inspirations to me. They taught me how to live with HIV and to live in such a way that that I can honor their memories. I was diagnosed at a time when there were no medications. There was one medication, AZT. I refused to take it because I believed at the time that it didn't do any good, and as it turns out, I was right. It didn't do any good. And I knew just by reading and from people in our support group that people who were on it were still dying, and there was some belief that it actually was hastening deaths. Over the years, some of the difficulties have been things like stigma. That it has changed somewhat, but I'm still shocked at how much stigma there is out there. And I think the thing with stigma is you just never know when it's going to rear its ugly head. And it does still on a regular basis for so many people living with HIV. And I think that's something that we really need to work hard at eliminating. I do peer support, and I have since 1992, early 92. I was involved locally in the creation of a peer support network, and then I've done advocacy and activism locally, provincially, nationally, and internationally over the years. And I guess it's one of the things that you can kind of count on for long-term survivors. Of course, not all of us, but I think a lot of us realize how much we learned and how much we have to share with the next generation of people living with HIV, the ones that have medications, but they don't, when they're first diagnosed, people don't know that. And so there's still a lot of fear and sadness and grief and loss and all of that happening for people. So I think it's really important that those of us who have been around for a long time and have lots to share can do that. I've felt very strongly about ensuring that women living with HIV have someone to reach out to. When I was first diagnosed, there were only a handful of us. And so, yeah, that was a big thing for me, was to ensure that if a woman was diagnosed, that she had another woman to talk to about how she was feeling. I have 2 children, and they're all grown up. At the time, I was looking for guardians for them. I was told to get my affairs in order, that I had probably about 6 months to live. And I mean, here I am, all these years later. And I think that's one of the things I would say as well to someone who's newly diagnosed, is that, get supportive people around you, find a good doctor who you can talk to, who you trust, and you'll be okay. Things are going to be okay. You're going to need a lot of support. And so you need to reach out for that. And it's okay to do that. And it's important that you do that.
Hello. I'm Olga Irwin from Youngstown, Ohio. For the last week, or maybe more, I've been thinking about a certain day, but it's HIV Long-Term Survivor Day. I've been really thinking about it hard this year, with all the tension that's been going on with society, with the coronavirus, the racial discord. And it's been making me think of my all-time, this is my all-time favorite song. If you hear the lyrics, it is all me. I've been sharing on Facebook almost every version I could think of and find of it. The reason why that's really, I'm really thinking of it, is because it's really hitting hard. The lyrics are symbolic, but what it means is talking about a person who is afraid to take any chances. And then it's talking about the person taking chances and what possibly could become. And at the end of the song gives the most wonderful hope of all. No matter what, and no matter how things look, or how bad things look, something beautiful is gonna grow. Well, 20 years ago, when I first found out I was HIV positive, I felt before diagnosed, I was actually bad. I didn't have a good self-esteem. But now, I do have a good self-esteem. All because I took chances. Like I said, my esteem's good. I'm taking the chances. I'm a very strong advocate in the HIV community, part of many, many, many groups and organizations. And I would have never done that if it wasn't for one person pushing me. Don't give up hope. Take chances. And then during my journey of taking chances, I met the most wonderful people you could ever meet, and they became the very, very best of friends. Sometimes better than friends, better than family. They know when I'm up, they know when I'm down. They encourage me to go outside of my box and do things I'm not comfortable with. And then they tell me, calm down, you need to take a break for my own health. But none of that would have ever happened if I never paid attention to the lyrics of the song The Rose. Take chances, and something beautiful will happen. Thank you.
My name is Brian Jones, and I've been thriving with AIDS for 37 years. Some days are good and some days are bad, but every day is a blessing. I've been living with HIV longer than I haven't been living with it. There's almost a time when I can't remember not having it. For years, I wondered why I was left behind. Having endured cancer 3 times, with the worst being stage 4 cancer, with one leg changed to a prison bed, I knew something had to change. So I began to advocate about HIV and AIDS. And being a long-term thriver, I don't like to say being a survivor, because we're doing more than just surviving. We're actually living. So I'm a long-term thriver. And for years I thought, why was I left behind? I've endured survivor syndrome, a feeling like there were other people who were more worthy or better than to have survived this horrible plague. And then I started to realize that I was left here for a reason. I was left here to thrive. I was left here to experience U equals U, which is undetectable equals untransmittable. I was left here to try and experience the ARVs that have saved my life. So what it means to be a long-term thriver is just to live and be grateful to live and live in purpose. Today I'm living in purpose, helping other people live with HIV and AIDS, and that's what it means for me to survive. Helping others and giving back is the key to surviving. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly. I'm a heterosexual female living with HIV. I have been living with HIV for 35 years now and consider myself a long-term survivor. There has been many ups and downs in my journey. I stay spiritually connected to nature. I adhere to my medications, and adhering to my medications means that I'm undetectable. I am proud to be undetectable and untransmittable. I feel that there is still stigma within communities that needs to be addressed around HIV. And this is part of the reason why I'm doing this video. As a long-term survivor, I have felt stigma before when new relationships have started. If one thing that I can tell and let people know about being a long-term survivor, you would have to adhere to your medications. Nowadays, it's 1 pill a day, and that is great. And taking 1 pill a day and having regular blood work and regular conversations with your HIV specialist is great for long-term surviving of HIV. I am the Women's Health Coordinator for the Gilbert Center for Social and Support Services in Barrie. And if you would like to reach out, you can access the Gilbert Center through our website, www.gilbertcenter.ca. My contact information's in the staff information. And I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with anybody who would like to contact me around being a long-term survivor with HIV. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hi, everyone. First of all, sorry for the hat. Serious COVID hair going on, and it's not pretty. Can't remember the last month I had a good hair day. But anyway, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to share some of my experiences as a long-time HIV survivor. And I think the first thing I want to talk about is it's been a long road. I'm counting in decades now, and that long road's an emotional roller coaster, ups and downs. Things hit you when you don't expect it. And being a long-term survivor, one of the challenges and one of the things you have to manage is survivor guilt. And I lost a partner, lost many good friends, and it's difficult to manage and cope with sometimes. But the flip side of that is a resolve to celebrate life and to be mindful, grateful, practice acceptance, and to live life to the fullest. Because if we don't, we dishonor all the beautiful souls we've lost. Sorry. Gonna try and stay off the emotional roller coaster for you. Being such a long timer, from time to time I'll have a friend contact me and connect me with someone's newly diagnosed, and I really want to share with you what my stock spiel is to them. It's pretty short and to the point. First of all, go through the medical stuff. Have you got a good doc? Are you on meds? Do you know what CD4 and viral load are? Get those machines. And I really emphasize the importance, not only of physical health, but mental health and sexual health too. Those are all equally important if you're going to be on the survival road. You can't let one of them drop. You really can't. And I say there's good news and there's bad news. And the good news is the meds, the medical situation. We're so lucky today with the advances we made over the years. And really, if you live a pretty decent, healthy lifestyle, adhere to your meds, you can expect pretty much same life expectancy as anybody else. There might be some comorbidities, but generally, that's the good news. The bad news, stigma. It's still there, and it's something we have to fight, we have to call out, we have to address. You can develop a thick skin. You can, over the years, you become acclimatized, and sometimes it can roll off your back. You write it off to ignorance, fear. But the really sad thing about stigma is it's both within and outside the LGBTQ community. And I've developed a pretty thick skin. I've faced discrimination, rejection so many times. But what really hurts me is the stigma from within that community. That really hurts. But it's not all bad, because the thing I truly cherish about being a long-term HIV survivor is community. Our HIV community and allies are strong and getting stronger. It is a group of incredibly loving, caring, supportive people. People who are HIV positive, friends, family, healthcare workers. I draw so much strength, and I wouldn't have got here without the community. So I'm truly grateful for that. And HIV community is how I met Mr. Randy Davis. And there's no long-term survivors, there's no long-term badge of service. And comparatively, Randy's been HIV positive for a much shorter time, but he is a powerhouse. And I truly love him as a friend and his amazing husband, Aaron. They really make the difference for me, and all the other amazing connections throughout that I got through this wonderful community. I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to say thank you for this opportunity to share with you. I hope something I've said makes you pause and reflect, consider. Be well, stay safe, be kind to each other. Peace and love. Thank you.
Thank you. Sincerely, thank you. Huge amounts of gratitude and appreciation to my friends Maluba, Charles, Deborah, Olga, Brian, Kelly, and Guy for so graciously sharing your stories, your experiences, and your messages here with my audience at Let's Be Perfectly Queer. As I mentioned before the videos, long-term survivors and their resilience are what has helped to fuel the passion that I have for the advocacy and activism that I do around folks living with HIV, specifically the U=U movement, and making sure that all of us living with HIV have access to treatment and care so that we have the ability to attain a suppressed viral load and become undetectable and therefore untransmittable and no longer be seen as a risk either internally from our own perspective or from the outside by others. Because living with HIV is a chronic illness now. It is no longer a death sentence, and this has been an opportunity to help shed some light on what the faces of HIV look like in 2020. As I said earlier, for me, an HIV baby and the 7 you just saw, some amazing long-term survivors who are also awesome advocates and activists for all folks living with HIV. So again, thank you so much for all of you for sharing those stories, and thank you to all of you for tuning in to watch. I did want to just mention next week's episode before we leave tonight, because it's an important one that I hope all of you will return to take in and maybe share that we're having this episode next week with your friends and neighbors. Next week I will have the wonderful Olivia Nuama on as my guest. Olivia is the former executive director of Pride Toronto, and Olivia has agreed to come on the show to talk about her experiences as a queer Black woman, and obviously to talk about some of the, for us white folks, some of the uncomfortable issues that have been raised recently with the murder of George Floyd and others. This is obviously an issue that has been going on for centuries, and let's hope that now is truly a time where we can see some change and some lasting change. And that's what Olivia and I are going to be discussing. She's an amazing individual who will tell us about some of her experiences, share some messages that she hopes will resonate with all folks, and talk a little bit about the hopes that we all have for a better future. And it's an opportunity for us as white people to do better. So I hope you'll tune in next week for that important episode. And again, thank you very much for joining us tonight on another wonderful episode of Let's Be Perfectly Queer. Have a good night, everyone.